Hi, Dr. Mark Filidei here again, Director of Functional Medicine here at the Amen Clinics. Just want to mention again what functional medicine is. It's kind of like biochemistry on steroids. Basically, we're looking at biochemical and other causes of what's going on with you in your mental health problem and your brain and your life, which brings me to anxiety. So a lot of people have anxiety. It seems like everybody does. You know, stress can cause it, psychological causes, of course, can cause anxiety, but it turns out a lot of physical things can cause anxiety. Toxins, infections, gut problems. So I want to dig into that a little bit more to see what might be contributing to your anxiety problem. So the two top guns, natural natural infections, toxins that can really cause this are mercury and yeast, like candida, in your gut particularly. So it releases toxins. You know, yeast makes beer and wine, right? So what are they making? They're making alcohols. So yeast in your gut makes alcohols and other toxins that can affect your brain directly. Brain fog, anxiety, insomnia, notorious for side effects from yeast in the gut. Again, this is not vaginal yeast infection. It's the same bug, basically, but it's in your intestines, which is even worse because it gets to your brain that way. How do you know if you have it? Physical signs are bloating after meals, especially after carbohydrate meals, spaciness after meals also. Now, there are tests you can do to find it as well. Blood tests, so candida antibodies in the blood. And this is not a weird test. You know, LabCorp and major labs do this test. That's one way to look for it. Probably the best way is a stool analysis test to actually look in there and see what's going on. So here's an example of what that might look like. This is just one particular lab. And down in this corner here is where you see yeast. And little teeny box down there says there were many yeast in there. So we all have yeast in our gut, you just don't want a lot. It's like a battle going on in there 24/7 with thousands of species, and sometimes the bad guys win. That's when we need to move the needle away from the bad guys, like yeast. What predisposes to that? Sugar, right? So what do yeast live on? Carbs. So if you're eating a lot of carbs, you're feeding those guys, and there's going to make more of them, and they're going to have a party, and you're not going to feel well. So low carb diet is key. There are many natural herbal treatments to get rid of yeast as well. One thing good about this test, it tells you what to use to get rid of it. So that's a big issue for a lot of folks. Another one is mercury. So if you have silver fillings, guess what? That's not silver. That's 50% mercury. Kind of silly they still put it in people's mouth, but that's the fact. Every time you chew or eat food or hot beverages, you're inhaling mercury vapor. It gets into your lungs and into your system and into your brain. So you probably have all heard of the Mad Hatter. Well, that's a real story. People that used to make hats in Old England used mercury salts to turn fur, animal fur, into felt to make hats. And they went mad, literally. So it was an anxiety, tremulous kind of madness. Well, low doses can do that too. You don't have to be poisoned with it. It builds up in your system. Where else do you get it? Fish. So sushi, tuna, shark, loaded with mercury. Swordfish, one of the highest. So I used to eat tons of tuna and stopped after I did my own mercury test, and it was sky high. And I don't have a single filling, so it came from fish. How do you check that? You can do a hair test, which is cheap and easy. Blood tests are not good. I'll tell you about that in a second, but this is a pretty good way of seeing what your metal levels are. So mercury is kind of right here in the middle. This is a sample test. It's not very high, but oftentimes you'll see people off the chart high. And then we usually confirm that with a urine test to see if it's really coming out of your body. You can have false elevations on a hair test. Maybe it's just in your water. Not usually mercury, though. Aluminum, arsenic might be in your water and in your hair, but not in your body. So getting rid of mercury can cure your anxiety, if that's the culprit. It can certainly contribute to your anxiety. Again, those are just two of many things, but probably the top two that I see commonly that are physiologic causes of anxiety. And depression as well, but especially anxiety. So if you have metals, there are ways to get rid of them, both natural and prescription, that can safely detoxify you. So that's just one in our continuing segment of biological, physiological phenomenon that can really be causing your mental health problems. See you next time.